MSD Podcast Edition 2. A considerable number of questions and training inquiries have been received on my Brain to Boot military mental toughness and psychological conditioning enhancement for close quarters combat and military self-defense. This Todd Group training package and manual has been developed over several decades, and it truly has been a task to be continued and not a project to be completed. This podcast is about the how-to Brain to Boot training package primary practices. The Brain to Boot manual is 449 pages of how-to tactics and skills to enhance military close combat and military self-defense, and it also includes considerable background content on evolution and the physiology in regard to the why reasoning. For brevity, close quarters combat will be referred to as CQC and military self-defense as MSD in this podcast. CQC proponent and instructor Dr. Stefan Eriksson is responsible for the Todd Group Med Cell and all our medical close combat related expertise. His expertise includes acute psychiatry, emergency medicine, general practice, and he's also involved in sports medicine for MMA, rugby league and basketball. He is the director of clinical tactical systems and the developer of the Todd Group Specialist Close Personal Protection medical package. Stefan was involved with medical expertise, input and advice for the Brain to Boot and has been committed to wide-ranging training and instructing of not only our med-cell fields of expertise, but also instructing Todd systems, CQC and MSD. In the 80s and 90s, the Brain to Boot package underwent considerable advancement development and was constantly under development assessment and testing through to its publishing in 2015. Some of my former instructors were privy to my first 2 decades of work on the Brain to Boot and tasked me with completing it. One of the first questions I would ask my former instructors was what their close combat mental toughness and psychological conditioning for the battlefield actions on programs consisted of and how they were delivered and combined with their close combat skills. This information was important for my ongoing work on the development of the Brain to Boot package. A considerable amount of their mental toughness and psychological conditioning was on the reasons behind adverse human reactions and responses under threat. This was important in the understanding of why violent stresses and fear factors can be attributed to autonomic reactions and panic deliberate responses. The Brain to Boot manual had to be not only based on evolution, physiology and the why reasoning, but must provide the how-to tactics and skills to reduce or eliminate the effects of fear and stress and effectively and safely improve and increase threat neutralization capabilities. Stefan encouraged the inclusion of physiology content as he believed that coming from me, being a military elite close combat master instructor, it was very clear, easy to understand and geared fully towards practical usage. The Todd Group has always been primarily a how-to training development and tradecraft training provider focused on rapid objective achievement. Our hard, heavy and hostile mill tradecraft training objective achievement mentality and modus operandi is all about providing our peeps with an uncompromising mindset to match our CQC gross motor skills, overkill, combat and counter actions to get the job done. The background development work has been considerable, but it is the primary usage strategies that are based on only what is necessary to threat neutralize that exponents receive, as these peeps are far more interested in the how-to primary proven tactics skills than the why reasoning. They do have their copies of the Brain to Boot manual for referencing all content. The mental toughness tactics, skills, principles and practices needed to be specific to overcoming the effects of extreme threats of violence, including for kill or die battlefield actions on. The skills must be conducive with MIL battlefield or other roles and duties, MIL close combat or MIL self-defense, objective achievement, ROEs, and threat specifics. Skills that would not fit with battle dress, body armor and load bearing, for example, would never be instructed for operational roles. Training realism is a must, and for the MIL battlefield close combat considerations must include not only boots, battle dress, body armor, packs and weapons considerations, but also terrain as well as situational and threat specific factors. Mental toughness levels are very individual attributes orientated in regard to the individual's makeups and their development through life experiences and upskilling. While achieving physical fitness, increased strength and sporting prowess is possible if one is seriously committed to performance enhancement, mental toughness in close combat, where it can come down to kill or die, is a very different reality. Combatants' capabilities can be enhanced through training, conditioning and threat inoculation if the individual is willing and possesses inner resolve and intestinal fortitude of the specific type required to overcome facing life-threatening violence by hands-on combat or counteraction measures. Threat inoculation by exposure to controlled doses of the threat stimulus neutralized by overkill threat neutralization means can increase confidence, and as confidence and competency is increased, the doses levels can be increased in intensity, speed and momentum commensurate with exponent capabilities. Even in the most realistic of combat sports, the objective is not to kill an opponent, and there are rules, referees and judges and safety-orientated environments to provide as high a degree of competitive safety as possible. In mill battlefield close combat, it doesn't get any more terminal, close or personal than in close quarters combat actions on. While pulling a trigger from a distance is a potentially lethal undertaking, the stresses are different to threat neutralization with bare hands, boots, a dagger, or using a bayonet in the kill zone, where you are in arm's reach or body contact point blank range with your enemy. Similarly, people die in street fights because of the no rules and the desire to cause bodily harm by unarmed foul means or with weapons. The dangerous environments that the street, gutters, and concrete jungle present with protrusions, hard surfaces, obstacles and hazards are far removed from a sporting, safety-conscious arena environment. The military have rules of engagement, and for civilian self-defense there are laws of self-defense. The user of self-defense or close combat skills are responsible for their own actions and as such must conduct themselves inside the laws of the land. This may amount to using skills commensurate with the threat and can increase risks and mental stresses as such. While many that have not been trained in mental toughness enhancement may be strong-willed, mentally tough, physically hard, and consider themselves fully capable in battlefield close combat or on the cobbles, there is always someone equally or more willing and capable, and it is this type of foe that one needs to be prepared and ready to deal with. The environment itself can be what causes harm by hard contact impact that can put an end to combatants' capabilities in an instant. Brain to boot, situational awareness, and risks and hazards detection and avoidance is an important tactic to reduce risk. You must simply know where your boots are and be aware of your immediate landscape. Injuries and wounds can weaken one's resolve in an instant, and being able to reduce contact and effects of contact, as well as overcome the effects of such and get on with defeating the enemy, is something one needs to train for and be ready to do. Physical capability must be managed and output controlled to reduce or prevent falling victim to close combat battle fitness capabilities depletion. It is not an inferior enemy that should be planned and trained to defeat, but a superior enemy of formidable physical attributes and capabilities, as well as superior skills that should be trained to defeat. Never underestimate your enemy. The deadly, dirty, foul titles, terms and means and methods common to mill close combat tradecraft are for good reason. As such, mill close combat tradecraft capabilities to incapacitate or eliminate the enemy enable an underdog to defeat an overdog. The mindset is developed not only by physical skills, threat neutralization employments training, but also by the titles, terms, and being armed with knowledge of how to and the outcomes of effective skills neutralization employments. The mill close combat mindset and mentality must be reinforced by terminologies that are deliberate, definite, and by their titles are clear in their intention and objectives. Mill close combat and mill self-defense mental toughness is more than just physical skills, as without mental toughness the chances of overcoming the adversity of a high threat level actions on and being capable to threat neutralize a formidable foe is considerably lessened. A dagger on its own is a mere object and does not have the capability to self-launch an enemy penetrate. Similarly, a dagger in the hand of an individual that does not have the intestinal fortitude required to neutralize a threat could well be the means of their own demise if the weapon is taken from them and used against them. This being the reality, a combat threat neutralization strategy must consist of high-level mental toughness enhancement capabilities as well as best of battle-proven close combat skills capabilities, initiated and employed in unison in a fluid execution action. This must be as seamless as possible to maintain momentum and as such must share cohesive commonality to provide initiation and execution of threat neutralization best capabilities. The Brain to Boot is not just a manual, but is more a complete package on the development and enhancement of primary practice to increase mental toughness required to deal with and actions on violent assault. The Brain to Boot is not just a manual, but is more a complete package on the development and enhancement of primary practices to increase mental toughness required to deal with and in-your-face violent actions on threat and assault. The primary focus in the Brain to Boot manual is on unarmed threats neutralization, combat or counteraction strategies for both expected and unexpected actions on. Most threat situations in urban self-defense are expected actions on threats through aggressor actions ranging from eyeballing, verbiage through to physical threatening, posturing and gestures. That's not to say that in urban self-defense threats that assaulters are not going to assault without warning, like the covert king hit. In expected actions on threats because of time lags, distance between the aggressors and the targets, or gradual escalation of hostilities, the fear and stress effects can adversely affect the target of such hostilities' mental toughness levels. Under expected actions on, the major and minor components will ensure the pre-actions on time lapse will be filled with positive, ready status setting and maintaining practices and making situational and threat-related adjustments at real time. This will reduce the likelihood of slipping into self-doubt or anticipation over factual assessment and decision making. The major and minor components have a logical order and begin as soon as the threat is identified and continue until the threat is neutralized. The following are primary components for expected actions on threat neutralization strategies. The initiation of CQC respiration, eliminating or reducing to as low a level as humanly possible the effects of hormonal dumping, control of autonomic reactions, self-preservation, hard targeting, turning on of the senses, threat neutralization assessment and decision making, contingency option confirmation, mind's eye self-reassurance, constant checks and rechecks and where required adjustments, range, skill, commitment, timing, constant fast mapping assessment to identify changes in threat or situation and make real-time contingency option decisions and executions are all positive Brain to Boot tactics and skills to increase safety and objective achievement. In unexpected actions on, where combatants are responding to unexpected sounds, flashes of colour, movement, or contact, the first priority must be hard targeting, self-protection, self-preservation, immediate, simultaneous, combined with CQC, respiration, real-time decision-making, and threat neutralization initiation. The unexpected covert type assault will reduce the Brain to Boot employed components to just the required primary major components. The Brain to Boot tactics and skills are also equally important in CQB, armed combat threat neutralization actions on. The Brain to Boot package also includes coming down and cooling off practices, post actions on or after grueling training or testing to reduce the after effects of hormonal dumping and in turn keep the combatant safer. This podcast focuses on unarmed threats neutralization by unarmed MIL-CQC, MSD, threats neutralization means and methods, or for non-military stylists by their primary techniques. The Brain to Boot strategies can be applied with civvy styles techniques to enhance the user's inner resolve, self-defense level of mental toughness. The strategies include a primary order of execution that fits well with primary proven armed and unarmed close combat and military self-defense skills employments. These strategies include the execution of contingency options to deal with real-time actions on changes in threat and situation to ensure such changes can be effectively overcome. Everything at an enabling level must be learnt by high repetition training, remembering slow is fast and less is more. When confidence and competency has increased, with the introduction of battle handling exercises with all the elements of surprise and factors of confusion included, exponents can experience dealing with threats and threat escalation leading to actions on as well as the unknown, as in sudden aggressive shock actions on assaults. The manual comes with complete audio exercises that enable the mental toughness enhancement and psychological conditioning tactics and skills to be combined with the user's physical close combat threat neutralization, self-defense systems, and self-defense styles, initiation, execution, means, and methods. These audio exercises provide not only the capability for the user to practice the skills on their own, but also with a training enemy partner. This can be with or without impact target training equipment. When users understand titles, terms, instructions, commands, and safety practices, they can train in pairs, combining their brain-to-boot mental toughness and psychological conditioning enhancement tactics and skills with their CQC or MSD threat neutralization primary practices. This is undertaken by means of training pairs simultaneously undertaking threat and situational assessments and making their threat neutralization means and methods decisions without predetermined actions and roles such as who goes first or rehearsed choreography. The training pairs simultaneous audio exercises where there is no pre-actions on determinations or commands as to exponents' roles or who initiates the actions on require good old CQC specific tradecraft training means and methods. This was a somewhat difficult and problematic training regime to develop, as training conducting means of the electronic and computer-based types could not factor in the human actions-on factors in relation to individuals' assessment and decision-making, or the unpredictability of human CQC-related timing, initiation, and execution, or actions on individuals' reactions or deliberate responses under threat. Stalling, hesitation, uncertainty, confusion, fear of injury or causing injury to a training partner make actions on paired combatants training unpredictable to say the least, and cannot be controlled by high-tech means safely when such means cannot determine and control real-time unpredictability in skills employments. I drew on my training under Colonel Rex Applegate and what he had shown me from his World War II close combat specialist training provision for covert operators. He had methods of walking exponents through training layouts, whispering instructions in their ear as threats were identified. This method of training ensured the exponent would listen, look, move, and decide on best means of objective achievement under high stress levels situations with wide-ranging factors of confusion and distractions. His instructing and delivery methods for high threat level actions on threat neutralization training were close combat basic, best tradecraft training, objective achievement ways to expose exponents to threat and instruct them at real time on how to make effective threat neutralization decisions and execute them on the move. It was not only a proving means but also a learning means by being overseen by a highly skilled instructor. They had to overcome their fears, maintain control of themselves, and initiate face threat neutralization while maintaining controlled, calculated, objective achievement as per actions on SOPs. I took what Colonel Applegate had taught me and adapted it to meet requirements with CQC actions on with two combatants and an actions on over a single operator under instruction dealing with simulated enemy targets. I expanded on this by developing it for pairs of combatants and actions on where the combatants must make the threat neutralization options decisions and when to initiate their actions on decided skills. This provided the exponent that initiated the combat actions on assault to have an initial advantage and their training partner to have to counter-engage. Both exponents have to make real-time, deliberate best options threat neutralization decisions under instructor control and commands, including CQC training SOPs, but not what to do or when to do it specifics. There has been considerable interest in my Brain to Boot mental toughness development package from military service and law enforcement PERS, as well as civvy enthusiasts of MIL CQC. I like to not only produce training resources but also make them available to serious enthusiasts so I can give ongoing advice when required, which would not be easy with mass marketing. The combined manual and audio training exercises became a means of getting the training package out globally to combatants and enthusiasts. The difficulty we have as a private specialist training provider of European MSD and CQC is that we do not have the capability to provide the training in regards to the global interest and demand. This being a reality led to the Brain to Boot package being developed so combatants from other countries could add the strategies to their styles and techniques, and could do it by means of the Brain to Boot manual and access provided to the audio training exercises. Deciding on skills that are cohesive in combination employments is important for users, as this develops confidence in skills execution when from initiation to actions on contact to threat neutralization, it is one fluid, uninterrupted action. When developing the Brain to Boot package for our Todd systems CQC MSD skills employments, the minor and major components were employed in a correct order of execution unison, and the CQC skills all share commonality, making them cohesive. This is important in battlefield, close combat and urban Operation Self-Defense Threats Neutralization, where formidable foes will identify and exploit any weakness, faults or errors, including holes in hard cover guarding. Brain to Boot mental toughness strategies and threat neutralization skill strategies employed as one maximize safety and objective achievement. Users of other styles should ensure their techniques are uninterrupted fluid actions to reduce risk and as such increase threat neutralization. They should make sure that the Brain to Boot mental toughness enhancement components are practiced with their threat neutralization techniques until they become one action. Our European MIL CQC stances, footwork and guards share commonality with our armed CQB, and as such do not require changes in stance, guard or footwork from unarmed to armed combat threat neutralization. This is because the individual skills are same system, which is an advantage not only in decision making but also in threat changes, contingency options, executions. The Brain to Boot mental toughness enhancement major principles, including CQC specific respiration, have proven to enhance not only military unarmed combat and military self-defense but also armed combat competency. I have trained exponents that have advised of how they have increased their shooting accuracy by introducing the Brain to Boot components to their aimed as well as instinctive point shooting. While it's not difficult to make combatants physically fitter or stronger if they have the required willpower, it's not always possible to make someone that lacks in intestinal fortitude and inner resolve mentally tougher, as some cannot overcome their fears. Exponents, proponents and instructors with the smarts will be well aware of their existing levels of mental toughness and will also know their weaknesses if they are honest with themselves. Those that want to enhance their capabilities and increase their chances of CQC actions on objective achievement will soon identify how the combined mental toughness and physical threat neutralization skills practices increase their chances of victory over defeat. While the primary order of major and minor components execution is important, there is room for human error. The composition and execution of the major and minor components is a positive process by utilizing available time under threat prior to enactions on, by positive practices, eliminating time for negative thoughts. This reduces the likelihood of one's mind slipping into self-doubt or focusing on enemy strengths over weaknesses. It also advocates fast mapping, real-time assessment and decision-making, along with constant checks and rechecks of threat, situation and combatant state of readiness, reducing or eliminating anticipation over constant factual assessment. The correct order of execution will become the norm through what needs to be undertaken, from threat detection and assessments through to threat neutralization with high-level practice. The correct order of execution is logical and makes best sense as to what needs to be undertaken in personal hard targeting, assessment and decision-making, mental toughness enhancement, and threat neutralization skills, decisions-making, initiation, and execution. The package is made up of not only tactics, principles and skills to enhance mental toughness, but also personal hard target capabilities to maximize personal safety and increase chances of threat neutralization. Many exponents that have used the Brain to Boot strategies under threat have conveyed how they consider this was the difference between defeat and defeating their assaulters. Many have commented just how much more confident, prepared and willing they are than before they underwent Brain to Boot training. One of the two candidates that were the first two to pass Todd Systems Phase 1 basic CQC testing in South Africa, Leo Prinsloo, who in 2021 foiled a potentially deadly heist in South Africa, in an interview with CQC Times, commented on how in a life and death actions on, it's about nothing less than 100% mental toughness. You can find this article at cqctimes.com by searching Skilled Operator and Specialist Skills Instructor Leo Prinsloo foils armed heist. Under Phase 2 advanced CQC testing at Camp Todd, candidates have commented after the 4 hours plus of grueling CQC testing that they still have reserves in the tank through the brain to boot control measures. These control measures enable the combatant candidate to take control of one's situation by means of deliberate, calculated tactics and skills based on economy of movement and action, self-preservation, hard targeting combined with their advanced CQC skills employments under testing, where there is nowhere to hide and every strength and weakness, success and failure is immediately identified. In decades gone by, candidates under Phase 2 advanced testing would be physically drained and their tanks all but empty post-testing. Importantly, by never underestimating an enemy and always employing overkill threat neutralization, best of dirty tricks brigade take out, not take on practices, less physicality is required. Threat neutralization objective achievement by such foul or deadly means and methods is confidence enhancing to the practical realist through understanding human destruction outcomes of CQC skills employments. MIL CQC threat neutralization is as much a powerful mindset tool as CQC gross motor skills human anatomy destruction is. Never focusing on an enemy's strengths, but always targeting human anatomy targets that provide the highest chances of incapacitation, or for kill or die battlefield close quarters actions on enemy elimination, threat neutralization is vital in rapid, safe, effective threat destruction. These terminal skills targets include life support systems and sensitive human bodily sensors. Having a complete combined strategy of mental toughness and physical close combat threat neutralization maximization that you know provides you with the best chances of defeating a formidable foe will arm you with capability in an actions on. Not everyone is capable of causing another human physical bodily harm by foul or deadly means, and not everyone can overcome adversity, pain, injury or wounding under assault, which is a must to defeat a formidable foe bent on doing you grievous bodily harm. However, those that want to be the best combatant they can be and are prepared to be honest with themselves in relation to their current state of ready and preparedness to deal with a violent assaulter and have the desire to upskill, arming themselves with the best combatant arsenal can increase their capabilities by considerably. Understanding the realities of CQC, CQB and MSD are important to ensuring combatants are armed with the best capabilities. Training needs to be realistic and specific to the role, duties and objective achievement, and threat and battle inoculation against the adverse effects of violent actions on assault is a must to ensure exponents can identify negative adverse effects immediately and know how to eliminate or reduce these effects as part of effective threat neutralization. Arming exponents with knowledge will enhance exponents' battle smarts and will enable them to take control of high-risk threatening situations in a controlled, calculated and deliberate manner. The combatant mindset must be that of a practical realist wanting to end any actions on by combat or counter overkill means quickly and safely, and they must be able to turn it on, turn it down and turn it off in a controlled and calculated manner. They must understand there is no easy way to achieve combatant competence and competency other than by extensive and intensive training to enhance mental toughness, and it is all too late under threat or assault when overwhelmed to enhance your intestinal fortitude and threat neutralization competency capabilities. While a combatant may be mentally tough, they must be prepared for the rigors and realities of close quarters combat actions on contact and how to minimize such effects. I spent over 25 years instructing elite forces, close combat training, as well as overseeing testing, and this has been a very important part of the development of the Brain to Boot specialist program for military self-defense and military armed and unarmed combat. As well as training military elite, I have trained regular forces and specialist police units and close personal protection, as well as civilian enthusiasts of military self-defense and military close combat for over 40 years. And all those that have been dedicated and committed to both mental toughness enhancement and CQC MSD training have highly achieved and as such become confidently uncompromising in objective achievement. The practice of skill strategies until they can be executed confidently without fault is the difference between being willing, able, ready, and thinking you are or knowing you are not. Range, skill, commitment must be factored into unarmed offensive and counter-offensive assault actions powered by an uncompromising combative mentality. Combatants must be in full control, managing their physical capabilities and reserves, should an immediate threat neutralization not be possible. They should never underestimate any aggressor and should believe the enemy is capable of causing their demise if allowed to do so. Not using mental toughness practices combined with controlled physical threat neutralization skills output can lead to a combatant depleting their battle fitness capabilities to the point of helplessness, and it's all too late to regain an upper hand when hyperventilating and your tank is empty. 3/4 of your total physical possible output is more than enough to threat neutralize when targeting life support systems and sensitive, delicate human senses. It also reduces the risks of self-injury or telegraphing your intentions. Assessing, proving, and observing tens of thousands of MIL CQC exponents in training and candidates under testing over 25 years and being an exponent, proponent, and instructor of CQC and MSD for over 40 years has been a vital and important means of proving best practices for increasing confidence and competence under actions on testing and ultimately for operational actions on usage. I have combined the training I underwent from my former instructors and specifically the instructor training of how to problem solve and military close combat develop tactics and skills in the development of the Brain to Boot training package. I spent over 25 years as a head bouncer at pubs and clubs in the days where it was not regulated and was very much hands-on, sorted out, in-house or on the street. This required an uncompromising mentality and skills competency, as there was plenty of dealing with thugs and likely lads keen to make a reputation for themselves. I knew if you ever lost to one of these Jack the lads, your reputation would be affected and you would become a constant target for anyone trying to make a reputation on your strength. This was an important part of my personal development with dealing with violence and the effects of violence. Many peeps I train have not had hands-on experience, and it is important that training provides inoculation against contact by battle hardening toughness training. Combat milling, coming back from the dead, and other tradecraft, toughness and sickness, battle fitness and mental toughness conditioning and enhancement are so important to prepare candidates for close combat, battlefield, actions on, and street violence. The Brain to Boot package has enhanced exponents, proponents, and testing candidates' mental toughness rates of safe, effective threat neutralization, objective achievement by considerable. Over more than 4 decades of my research, development, and testing of tactics and skills has gone into the development of the Brain to Boot package, which is not only about the reasons why violent threats adversely affect humans, but more importantly is a how to overcome or reduce the effects of violent assault stresses and fears by employing Brain to Boot tactics, skills and principles with your best means and methods of close combat threat neutralization. That must be all about winning, not merely surviving. This has been but a brief insight into the Brain to Boot mental toughness and psychological conditioning enhancement for CQC MSD. Those that are interested can get the manual and audio exercises or can undertake training at Todd Group HQ or our international hub country of Thailand courses or any other exported courses of instruction. In the next podcast, I will start to answer questions received.